babe. I'm babe. I'm babe. I'm babe.
And it gets your face like warmed up.
Super serious.
Where nothing fun or funny ever happens.
This is a super serious thing.
I don't even like dogs.
Super serious.
There it is. Nice. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Super Serious Dog Podcast, where I, Misha Bielitsky, and my partner, Courtney Cuellar, take you on an adventure about dogs.
Always.
We always talking doggies. I just found out that we have like a bunch of new listeners, so welcome, you guys. Thanks for being
new
here.
Listeners. This is so funny. We're like a year into this thing, and like it was just such a funny joke, like that we were going to do this, and people probably weren't going to listen. And
People
what
care.
are we even going to talk about, right? Like,
People care. What are we talking about today, Courtney? Acceptance. So this kind of came to me, this topic idea came to me like, I don't know, it was like a shower thought, or I was driving around or something. I don't really know. It just sort of popped in my head about how like there's a lot of facets of ourselves, of our dogs, where we kind of tend to hinder ourselves because we can't accept certain things. And if you can't accept something, can't do anything about it. It's the whole like, the first step is admitting you have a problem or whatever.
mm-hmm.
And this isn't necessarily about accepting problems. That's part of it too. But sometimes people, especially when it comes to their dogs, they have a hard time just accepting their dog for who they are. Some people really spend a lot of time trying to change their dog. And there's one thing, like, you're always going to want to change behaviors, right? I'm glad that people want to change behaviors and change habits and that sort of thing, because that means we have a job. We can help guide them and coach them and that sort of thing.
It's
But
good to have goals in life in general.
Yes.
Just things you want to work on.
And not all change is bad, right? Sometimes it's as simple as like, I just want to teach my dog some things. I want to learn a new skill. I want to join a sport and grow together with my dog, right? But there's definitely been plenty of times Courtney and I were talking about today where sometimes it feels like people don't even like their dogs.
Yeah.
And not even their dogs
maybe they should have gotten a stuffed animal instead. Or maybe a goldfish or like a hamster or something.
Yeah.
Because the criteria some people have that they would like their dogs to achieve is just absurd.
Unreasonable.
Absurd. Unreasonable. Absurd. Just, oh gosh, it's out there.
And it's one thing if you're frustrated with your dog and you don't understand, and maybe it's your first dog, or maybe it's the first dog who's ever challenged you in this manner, that sort of thing. That's different. That's normal. We're talking about people who don't even like dogs at all. Like they just thought they should get one,
mm-hmm.
and they didn't really understand what that meant in terms of responsibility and whatever. There was a post on Instagram that was like, do you even like dogs?
Yeah.
Do you even care to put in the work at all? Do you even care to understand how they might be thinking and perceiving the world? It was pretty funny.
And can you accept that it might be different from how you're thinking and perceiving the world?
Right.
And
right.
that's okay. That something is perceiving the world differently than you, and you can learn to communicate with that and find common ground.
People do it all the time.
Do they though?
People do it all the time. At least the
Yes.
very in terms of they have different perceptions, right?
Right.
Whether they everybody accepts everybody else, that's a whole another thing that clearly doesn't always happen. But still, yeah, definitely being able to accept the genetic limitations or the genetic needs of your dog is, I think, a really, really big one, right? We get clients all the time that are like, I want a border collie, or I want a husky, or I want whatever. And then sometimes we'll ask them, well, why? And they'll say something.
They're pretty.
Because they're beautiful.
Yeah, I love their coat. It's just so fluffy. And it's like, okay, you know how much grooming that's going to require? Do you know how much exercise that's going to require? Do you know how much mental stimulation that animal requires? And are you going to meet all of those needs.
Yeah. And a lot of times people are very optimistic and they're like, yeah, sure, totally. Like I can do this. Right. And you think you're mentally committed, but sometimes when you kind of just want a dog because it's beautiful, you don't really like your brain will literally do anything to justify getting it. Right. Or just, and not even necessarily because it's beautiful, just because you want it, because you met some really cool versions of those dogs that were really well behaved, or
yeah, like you met that one husky
easy.
at the coffee shop and it was so sweet and so calm and it just laid there with its owner. So like, obviously all huskies want to do that. That's what they want to do, right? Is go to coffee shops and hang out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. My client, Sarah, she didn't know what she was getting. She has a Malinois Shepherd mix. That honestly, he ended up being very sweet and he's pretty drivey, but he's not like a scary Mal by any means, right? He looks scary when he yells, but he's a really good boy. And, she had no idea what she was getting, not because she just wanted a Mal and like, oh my God, now I have one. She just saw these cute puppies and wanted a companion and had been planning on getting a dog for a while. I think she's had dogs in the past, right? Like, so.
And then the opportunity presented itself.
It sure did. And then she realized like, holy shit, I don't have a normal dog. And now she knows what she has, but she's really committed. She has fully accepted the responsibility that I took on this dog. And like, I am a little in over my head. This isn't the dog. Like she told me when I first met her, like, I just wanted a dog that I could take to breweries and coffee shops and go do stuff. And now I'm like embarrassed to walk him through the neighborhood because he yells and he's really reactive to other dogs and people. But she's fully accepted the fact that like, this is more than she anticipated, but that's okay, right? So she's spending a bunch of money on training and she's investing a lot of her time and she's committing because she's like, I love this dog.
Sarah's her name?
Uh-huh.
Sarah, I am so proud of you for adapting and growing because of your dog, for your dog.
Hard.
That dog is going to take you to a new season of your life. I'm so happy for you. That's one of my like, I have millions of favorite things about dogs, but that's one of them is when they have the capacity to push people out of their comfort zone a little bit and make them dig a little deeper and
Yep.
you know, put in those extra hours of work and do the research and get the training. And I mean, because the person grows during that and it's so beautiful to see. Good job,
We're proud of you, Sarah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's probably blushing if she's listening right now. But yeah, so like kind of being able to accept that. And sometimes that acceptance doesn't have to be like, okay, we're doing this. It's just saying, I understand that this is a part of you that will never go away. Right. Because like, like having a dog that is, I don't know, like let's take B-Town. Like I know B-Town will never stop biting. Like it'll diminish and maybe the severity and like the intensity will go down, but I know that is never going to go away. Right. And I have accepted that.
That is a go-to tool he has.
For whatever reason, it's his best tool in his toolbox.
It's at the
so
top. He keeps it on
believes.
the top. So if he needs a tool, like that's the first one he grabs.
Yeah.
Just like, Sarah's dog might always grab barking.
Yep.
But she can channel that into other things and then ask the dog, like, could you not bark so much in the neighborhood, though? Like, it draws too much attention to us. Can we just play it cool? And then, you know, give it an outlet somewhere else.
Exactly. Same thing with like, you know, I have like clients with like border collies and stuff like that. So I'm like, go get a flirt pole, right? Like the energy isn't going anywhere. You knew like a lot of them are like, oh, I'm going to take them jogging and running and all this stuff and whatever. And that's great, but that's still not necessarily biologically fulfilling.
Right.
Greyhounds are runners, right? Or stereotypically. Border collies are mind game experts.
Yes.
So you have to play
and pushing,
mind games.
chasing experts. They want to make something move.
Yes.
They want to chase it. They want to go after the movement.
Yes.
They want to control the movement. They want to circle the movement.
Right. So, you know, I've had people with like just different breeds or whatever. They're like, I really want my dog to fetch. And like, you can to an extent, like teach that. Sure, you can teach a dog anything. It's just how hard do you have to work? And are you willing to put in that level of effort for that ultimate goal? And there's going to be diminishing returns at some point, right? Where like the effort you put in does not match the output that you're getting from the dog and their experience. And honestly, sometimes I straight up tell people, I'm like, we can teach like a baseline form of fetch, but this dog isn't the dog that you thought it was going to be. This isn't going to be the dog who just wants to constantly fetch, and that's how you burn off energy. And you got to adapt, and you have to change
You have to
your
find a different
expectation.
game. I know that game where you stand there with the ball and you throw it and the dog brings it back and drops it sounds really fun and like is the picture perfect of what you wanted, but that's not
tug
the dog
is
you
fun.
got. But tug is fun. Yeah.
Chasing your dog can be fun.
Yeah.
Good cardio.
Yeah. Being
Flirt
more
poles
active.
are fun.
Yeah. Like Pepper is a good example of that. Like Pepper will not play a game where you stand still. Like if you're not being goofy, you're not worth playing with. But if you're flailing your limbs around, making all kinds
so
of noises, she's flailing her limbs around, making all kinds of noises, and she'll bring you the ball back every time. If you know,
You have to make it a thing, though. You have to change.
have to make it a thing. Yeah.
You have to change it. Oh my God. My cat Turkey is sleeping underneath my monitor, and he just keeps getting cuter and cuter. He's like all tucked up with his little paws. He's a sleepy boy. If he starts meowing, I'm not sorry. He can be really talkative. But yeah, like sometimes you have to also accept your own limitations in the same way you have to accept your dog's limitations too, right? Like you have to accept that, yeah, you do work certain hours, or that you do prioritize things a little bit differently. And if you're always fighting that and being like, I'm going to do XYZ tomorrow, this weekend, I'm going to do it. I'm going to finally do it. I'm going to finally do it. You're not really accepting what your own limitations are, maybe even physical limitations too, right? And finding a creative way around maybe that problem or that obstacle for getting your dog to, exercise or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being able to just sit there and say, all right, this is my obstacles, will allow you to actually sit down and assess them and find solutions. Because if you're always just like, I'm going to do it. I swear I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my homework this week, Misha. I'm going to do it. I swear. There's something stopping you, and it's not my job to tell you what that is. You have to figure that out for yourself.
Yeah. I have a client who's going to schedule another lesson with me. Every like month or so, I get a text from her letting me know that like
she's
this
gonna
next
do
week
it.
she's gonna do it, and I'm like, all righty, you let me know.
Why don't you just actually do it?
Yeah, and it's a thing where I mean she's not there yet. She's not at the point of accepting it and really buckling down and changing things, and that is an unfortunate part of our job sometimes, I think, is that we have to see people at that stage. And I've been at that stage where I'm like, I'm going to get a gym membership. And then I go and I try and then I don't show up and I avoid the trainer's calls and like those kind of things, So like I have to accept that I am not at that stage yet. So I need to go stop wasting money at gyms that I'm never going to go back to.
Or accept it as a tax.
Which I have done that also, and just like let the membership run out because
yeah, I think you were telling me last year you did that with your kickboxing or something like that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things like when you stop overthinking it, and just start doing it, you don't have this like internal like fight with yourself anymore. And when you're finally ready to just accept it and just do it, it just kind of naturally flows. Like when I started going to the gym last year or like a year and a half ago before the pandemic and stuff, like I just saw Lee's results after like 6 months. And then I saw his results after like a year. And I was like, holy shit, like this time has flown by. It doesn't feel like you've been putting in all this effort or work. Like you have, but it's been really easy because it just sort of became a routine. It just became something that he accepted and incorporated it and prioritized it. And then I was like, I want to be strong. I want to look good. That's awesome. So I went and signed up.
Super strong. I remember you were like, guess how much pounds I picked up and put down today. And like, I was so blown away.
Dude, I was almost like, I could do it almost like 200-pound deadlift, like no problem.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was crazy. I know.
And then the world blew up. So
and then I stopped going.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing cardio stuff.
Yeah, you're also growing a human.
I'm growing a human. Well, I figured I need stamina and endurance and cardio if I'm going to be pushing out a fucking watermelon, because this child is giant, apparently, everybody. My child is giant and probably going to be like 30 goddamn pounds when I birth him.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. That's
Oh my
a
God, that's so
exaggeration.
scary. Oh,
I'll be happy if he doesn't go beyond 10 pounds, but who knows? Who the fuck knows?
I'm fine. I didn't drop my headphones. I'm fine.
I don't even know how you did that. I happened to like look away. At
I
that
was
moment.
adjusting, and then it just like it's fine. They're back on now. It's good.
That's really funny. So another part of like kind of accepting your own limitations and like your role in it, right, is there's actually two facets. One is being nice to yourself when you make mistakes or when you fail or when you don't follow through. Because as someone who is very self-critical, I can tell you, it's not nice to hear that shit in your head. And the worse
I can
and the
second
more
that.
mean you are to yourself, the less likely you are to follow through, because then you're just going to have this weird anxiety. It's going to be built up in your head. Like that meme of like, what is it where, so you procrastinated something for 2 years, you finally did it, and it only took you 15 minutes to do. Like that kind of shit.
Story of my life.
You
no
just
shit.
build that shit up in your head forever.
Yeah.
And then it ends up not really being a big deal if you ever finally do get around to it. But like our brains have this hilarious, and when I say hilarious, it's not funny at all.
No, it's
really
like a laugh so
annoying.
you don't cry type thing. It's like, ha 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 ha, funny one, brain. Good
Thanks.
one. You
Thanks
fucking
a lot.
asshole. I like your jokes.
But like, if you make a mistake, don't dwell on it, right? If, you did something that the trainer told you not to do, like, honestly, if you, so many of my clients are like, Misha, I did the thing you told me not to do with the dog, and I just didn't tether them when people came over, and it was a disaster. And I was like, yeah, how did that feel? Like, I try to explore it with them. I try not to reprimand them or anything like that, because it's not about that. I make mistakes constantly.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point is you're supposed to learn from them. And the whole point is that they are fucking inevitable.
Yep.
No matter what you do in life, whether it's regarding your dog, your personal life, your relationships, you're going to fuck up.
Yeah, that's the only way you learn.
And avoid them.
That's how learning takes place, is when you do something and then it goes wrong and you go, oh, that's not how you do it. And then you try it again and it doesn't go wrong. And you're like, oh, contrast. Okay, so if I do it that way, and maybe you try it again a couple times and you do it wrong a couple more times, you do it right a couple more times, just so you can really get, a good even scale of things. And you're like, definitely it's better when I do it this one way.
Yep.
I mean, it's true for dogs. Like, think about, you're teaching a dog not to lunge at another dog. Like,
right.
When you do that, this negative thing may happen. And it's just not worth it. Like, just don't even try it.
Yep.
And then the dog's like, maybe that's a bad idea. What could I do instead? Maybe look at you. Oh, shit, I get treats when I look at you? Holy shit. Okay, let's do that one. Fuck this other dog. I don't even care. What up?
Let's do this instead.
Yeah.
I was listening to NPR today, and they were interviewing a woman who's written a lot of Marvel comics. I think she wrote Black Panther and a bunch of other stuff. But basically, she has some new stuff coming out. And one of the questions that a caller had called in and asked about was like, hey, my daughter likes to write fan fiction type stuff. How can I encourage her to write something original? And her advice was awesome. It was like, everybody's so afraid to write something original because they're afraid to write something bad. But you have to write something bad to get to the good stuff anyways. Like if ever I have like an idea, like let's say I'm trying to come up with a name for my company or something like that, or a name for the title of an episode or something. Courtney and I do this all the time. We'll literally like just spit out like a ton of dumb shit and like write down a ton of ideas, scrap them all. And then eventually you get to the good stuff, because your brain has to get through all the surface stuff that's like not funny,
The mumbo jumbo.
just dumb, or just too obvious. Right.
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid of failing, of being sloppy, of not having finesse, because you're not going to have it no matter what. You're going to be sloppy. You have to get that shit out of the way to figure out your balance.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really nice. I had no idea what she was going to say in response to that question. I honestly thought she might say something like, well, if she doesn't want to write original stuff, who cares? Like, if she's enjoying that comfort zone or she enjoys that, genre or whatever, right, to each their own. But instead she was like, no, just don't write something shitty. And sometimes like going back and reading that crappy thing you wrote is like really hilarious. Or when I like watch old videos of myself on like iCloud, I'm like, what the fuck was that horrible ass body language? What the fuck was I doing? And why did it work?
Yeah, you could also look back and be like, whoa, that was like 5 years ago. I knew what I was doing then too.
Yep,
crazy.
That's true.
Maybe
true.
I don't suck at everything.
I do have videos like that too. Yeah. But it's like whenever I look back on stuff, like you could totally be embarrassed of like, oh my God, look at that stuff that I wore in middle school or whatever. And it's like, dude, who gives a shit? It was so long ago. Now you can laugh about it.
Yeah.
But like when you're in it, when you're like, oh my God, middle school was last year, it feels like the heaviest, the worst, like most embarrassing thing possible.
For sure.
Just like thinking about all the terrible shit that I used to wear, but everybody wore that shit. You know what I mean?
Think about that. Yeah. Yeah. There's some odd period. There's some strange times in my life. We're not gonna go into that. I'm just really happy. Like the internet wasn't a super big deal.
Yep.
Back then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If I could go back to my MySpace and see who was in my top 8, that'd be hilarious.
Oh God.
Oh God. To be young and on the internet again. But yeah, don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid of the inevitabilities in your training and in your growth, because like you're just going to hinder yourself. You're going to hold yourself back unnecessarily. But you also have to take responsibility in how you may have created the problems that you're seeing, especially in your own dogs, right? Courtney and I talk about this shit all the time, like especially with regards to like Phoebe, for instance.
We create our own monsters. Yep.
Absolutely. And like you, especially if like your problem that you created was out of either a lack of knowledge or laziness, or like you knew that like you didn't really like that behavior, but you're like, it's not that bad. And then now suddenly it is a problem. Like you need to accept your role in that, or potentially even in times where like you've purposely encouraged something, like you had a lot of bad days. And so you let your dog jump up and pet you. Right. And then you're like, now I need my dog to stop jumping. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
Are you going to also change your behavior? Because if not, it's going to take a really long time, or what's inevitably going to happen is that's not going to go away at all, because you're going to be like, for fuck's sake, I keep accidentally petting it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're mindless.
Yep.
But you have to just bring awareness and attention to it.
Yeah. And then just remember to work on it every single time. Which is not easy to do. So like if you're struggling with it, like it's because it's not easy. It is hard to change behavior, which should help you kind of realize how hard it is for your dog to change behavior. Like just because you did 10 reps of it yesterday, or you enforced it for this whole last week, so what? Like it's still hard to change behavior. A good example of that is Phoebe. Yeah. So my dogs have not been allowed on the couch for like a year and a half now, like no furniture at all. And not even like with exceptions on days where I didn't feel good, like just none. And I've been very consistent about it. And yesterday I did one of those, like you go from standing to laying on the couch, you just kind of fall, just plop. So I did that yesterday because I was tired and I was just like done, and I fell, and fucking Phoebe just jumped up there and like spooned up on me and was like, hey, we do this every day. I'm so happy it's cuddle time. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Oh gosh. She doesn't want to accept that.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is so funny. And like habits are by far the hardest thing to change, because a habit is something that once was something that was a thoughtful thing that you were aware that you did, and now is no longer is now automatic. You're not aware that it's happening. You just do it and you go, oh shit, I just did it.
For like 2 years of Phoebe's life, when I laid down on the couch, it was like, Phoebe, come here, like be my little spoon. And she would be my little spoon, and we'd lay there and we'd cuddle. And I mean, we both loved it. So
Yeah.
it was a habit in her longer than it has not been a habit in her. So therefore it is still not broken because she's Phoebe. And
I still have a terrible habit personally that has nothing to do with dogs, where I will get in my car,
you've talked
buckle my
about this habit
seatbelts.
before.
and then put my car in reverse and go, wait, where am I going?
Yeah.
And then have to like set up my music and like set up my GPS and whatever. And it's really funny because I still will just be like, nope, I'm going to put it back in park real quick. And I don't know how long this has been a habit of mine. Really long time.
Like I know at least a year because you've mentioned this on the podcast
Oh,
before.
it's definitely been like at least several years. And have I made a concerted effort to fix it? No, absolutely not. I could be that dick that just like leaves my car in reverse or whatever and lets people think I'm
I hate when
backing
people
out,
do
but
that though.
It's
I
annoying.
hate that. Don't.
Yeah. I don't. I put it back in park, especially if I'm in a busy parking lot. Because that's annoying and frustrating. But yeah, like it's okay to have those things that you just accept as a part of yourself and accept as part of your dog. But like, if I were to then start bitching to Courtney about that every day that I do that, like I don't really have a lot of room to talk if I never work on it. Right.
Yeah.
Like after a certain point, like a little bit of venting, a little bit of like, oh my God, this is a problem. I need to address it. Absolutely. That's part of it. That's part of accepting it and bringing awareness and bringing attention to it.
Yeah.
But if I bitched about that for the next 3 months and didn't do a damn thing about it, Courtney would be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Shut up. Or do something about it. Write yourself a fucking sticky note or something. Like I'd probably like bring sticky notes over and be like, I got you something. This is for your car. So you don't put it in reverse before you figure out where you're going. It just says, where are you going?
I was really bad about brushing my teeth the last couple of years in the sense of like not doing it at the same time. Like for whatever reason, like for the most part, I'd be pretty consistent. Like first thing when I wake up, I'd brush my teeth, right? Like a normal human being does. But like for whatever reason, I would just have these random bouts where I'd be like, it's lunchtime and I didn't today. Let me go do that real quick. Like it was just super freaking weird. Like I didn't understand why. And so you know what I did? I fucking put sticky notes everywhere.
Nice.
I did exactly that. And I set like timers or not timers, but reminders on my phone.
You made it a priority.
Yeah.
You got it in your groove. You set yourself up for success with a system that worked. And if that system wasn't working, you would have found a different one or added to it.
Yeah. And just to be clear, like I usually brush my teeth about like 3 times a day because like terrible about flossing. So I feel like I have to compensate because I have really tight contact points, which is
tight
another
contact
habit.
points.
Yeah, like where your teeth like touch really
I get
close.
it. It's just a funny thing to say about yourself.
Tight.
Like, hi, I'm Misha. I have tight contact points.
Dude, if I'm ever like in one of those situations where they're like, tell us a fun fact about yourself, that's going to be my fucking fun fact.
Good. I hope so.
I think that should be the title of this episode too.
Tight contact points. Write it down.
But yeah, so habits are hard. Change is hard. Change is
but
really,
it's not
really
always
hard.
bad.
No. And change is really, really hard when something's been going on for a long time. And having a little bit of empathy for your dog that's 6 years old and you're just now starting to give a shit about barking because maybe you moved into an apartment or now you're having a kid and it matters or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. Maybe you just suddenly decided, that's always actually kind of annoyed me. I would like to change that now, right? Whatever it may be, just be patient, be understanding, be nice to yourself.
And your dog.
That's probably one of the most important things is most people are just really hard on themselves. And that translates to being really hard on their dogs.
Yep.
And having really unrealistic expectations. Like, why can't you just do this? Right. It's not how it works. There's something missing either in your communication, your, I had another way of saying basically
Delivery?
Your communication, your delivery. Yes. Right. Your abilities, right? And stuff takes time. You're not going to be perfect overnight, ever, period.
Yeah.
Period.
And it's okay to ask for help if you're struggling. Like, If you're like, I don't know what it is that I'm missing, I don't know why the communication's not working, ask someone, because someone else might know and they might be able to help you, and then you'll know, and then you'll be able to help other people, or at least help yourself.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Do you have anything else, Courtney?
I got
on
nothing.
that topic? Me?
I got nothing.
Neither. I think we like wrapped that up nice and neat.
Nice and neat little bow.
Nice little
Yeah.
bow. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed. Not you guys. We hope y'all enjoyed this episode. See, I'm changing habits too, right here, right in front of your
Every
face,
time
people.
you guys are witnessing this process where Misha catches herself every time.
But yeah, we hope y'all enjoyed this episode, learned something from it, etc. If you did, leave us a review, hit the like button, share with your friends, tell everybody what you like about us and why. Be specific.
Be specific.
And if you want to support us financially, you can also go check out our Patreon as well. We have a few different tiers where you can support us. But honestly, we're just excited that people listen and care.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's super cool. We really appreciate that.
So yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
We're away. Jay's gonna probably leave that in.